our buddy Chris Brown, Bills Insider from BuffaloBills.com. Welcome to the show, all of you watching on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. We're here every Monday, 10 a.m. to talk about the game before. We call the show Monday Morning Breakdown. Might be more appropriate to talk about the Sunday afternoon breakdown instead today, Chris, for the Bills yesterday.
This is a post-mortem in every way, shape, and form. Got to do what we got to do here, Murph.
Yeah, I'm happy to
through
be
the
here.
good, through the bad, through the ugly.
Bills lose to the Colts by an incredible score, 37-5, a ridiculous score befitting a really bad game for the Buffalo Bills. And, of course, it was Derrick Anderson's first start for the Bills. He went 20 of 31, 175 yards, 3 interceptions. The numbers don't tell the story, Chris. The Bills happy to have Derrick Anderson, happy to have him start, and he had his moments. Look, the ball came out on time from Derrick Anderson, which is something you could not say about the Buffalo passing attack through the first 6 games this season. Ball came out on time. He was relatively accurate for the most part, I thought. Anderson did a good job, seems fairly comfortable. There were some signs of rust, I think, as the game went along, and he's trying to press. Maybe things got away from him a little bit. I thought Derrick Anderson did yeoman's work, though, for the Bills at quarterback yesterday in a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, when you consider the circumstances, all of 10 days to master a game plan, establish some measure of timing with his receiving targets, understanding pre-snap protection changes, checks at the line, all of that stuff. I think for the most part he handled most of that. And I think what got lost in this game was the offense was moving the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, they moved the ball in the first half pretty effectively. They moved into Indianapolis territory a few times on their drives in the first half. And unfortunately, the turnovers is ultimately what killed them. But they stayed out of long down and distance a good part of that time. They got enough production from the running game to keep them on schedule. And there was some chemistry between Anderson and Kelvin Benjamin, the 2 former Carolina teammates. So, I thought there were some things that looked better than we've seen in weeks past from this offense, even though the turnovers were ugly.
Clearly, the Bills' offensive thinkers pared down the game plan a little bit. There was no pre-snap motion for Derrick Anderson in an effort, I would think, to keep things basic. And he was okay, just okay, I thought. But, again, the ball was out on time, and they were on schedule for the most part. Not a bad effort from Derrick Anderson. All right, let's get into 4-down territory now as we break down the 4 big issues of yesterday's game. 4-down territory. Let's start with a surprising development, I thought. The Indianapolis Colts run game, 37 rushes, 220 yards. That exceeded anything they had done prior to this. Prior to this, the Colts just ran the ball 30% of their offensive snaps. Yesterday, they ran it 61% of the time. They ran the football. That was not something the Bills had seen. They got great work, I thought, from Marlon Mack, the second-year running back, with those 37 carries, 220 yards for the entire offense. And I thought they took advantage of really some poor play by the Bills' interior linebackers, Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. I think the Bills were determined to set those 2 up in the middle. They wanted a lot of double A-gap blitz. Once they did that, it seemed like Frank Reich turned it against the Bills by some misdirection and running to the outside, and the Bills really got burned outside.
Yeah, they got outflanked badly on a number of plays, including the touchdown at the end of the game that went for 20 yards. I mean, we're talking about a guy that just walked into the end zone untouched. I mean, that's how bad the angles were for the Bills' defense. Here's the touchdown run that we're watching right now. I mean, he doesn't get a finger laid on him for 20 yards going into the end zone. And talking to Lorenzo Alexander about this, he said what they did with the offense was great. I mean, he said they came out every series and were throwing something different at us. So after we adjusted to what they had been running the previous series, they ran something different at us on the next series, and that continued throughout the game. So I guess you got to tip your hat to the Colts coaching staff on that one, because even after adjustments were made, they threw another thing at him and another thing, and at the end of the day, it's 220 yards on the ground and 6 yards a carry for the Colts.
Great job by Frank Reich, who calls the offensive plays, too, from the sideline. All right, second down as we go through 4-down territory. The turnovers for the Buffalo Bills on offense. 5 turnovers, 2 in the first half. No turnover more critical than this second quarter fumble by Charles Clay. Look, the Bills were down 6-0 at this point. Driving down the field, they made some good plays. Actually, a good play to get the ball to Charles Clay, and he coughed it up. A nice spike of the football by the safety, Mike Mitchell, who played a whale of a game for Indianapolis. Ball comes out of Charles Clay's hands. I talked to him after the game. He knew it was a bad mistake. I thought it was the turning point of the game, even though it was only 6-0. Colts came back, moved down the field, and basically a 10-point swing, at least a 10-point swing on that fumble.
Yeah, because he makes that fumble at the Indianapolis 16-yard line. And again, Bills driving into Colts territory, and 3 of their 5 turnovers yesterday happened on the Colts side of the field. And you're taking points off the board, and more important than that, the Colts turned those 2 first-half turnovers into 11 points. It's the second straight week, Murph. Well, against the Texans the week before, 2 special teams turnovers, spot the Texans 10 points, 2 turnovers here by the offense in the first half, spot the Colts 11 points because they get the 2-point conversion. And with the way the offense is performing right now, you cannot spot the opponent 10 points and hope to still be in the game. You can make the argument that if they don't have those first 2 turnovers in the second quarter yesterday, then instead of 24-0 at half, you might have 14-10.
Yeah.
You might have 14-6 at the worst. I mean, you've at least taken 2 field goals off the board for your offense with those 2 turnovers. They were costly.
5 turnovers by the Bills offense, 3 of them in the second half. A lot of it at the end was obviously Derrick Anderson trying to force the ball, trying to get in comeback position.
Yeah, he's trying to make something happen.
All right, third down as we go through 4-down territory. An uncharacteristic day for the Buffalo defense. 0 sacks and no turnovers for the first time under Sean McDermott. First time that's happened, and that's, they kind of were living on their defense over the last 3.5 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, Chris, and didn't happen at all yesterday. We talked about the great Colts running game, and we talked about how the Bills couldn't turn it over. I give credit to a young and I think really rapidly developing Colts offensive line. A couple of rookies up there. They're going to be good. And, of course, they have Andrew Luck, who's still one of the best quarterbacks in the game.
Well, and it's hard to get a sack when the other team is running it 37 times.
Yeah.
I mean, you're running the football 37 times. The opportunities for your pass rush to get home are going to be few and far between. Andrew Luck only dropped back 23 times in this game as opposed to 37 run plays. So just by simple math there, the opportunities were fewer and further between for Buffalo's pass rush to make an impact on this football.
The last couple of games prior to this, the Colts were averaging 48 passing attempts per game.
Yeah.
They had less than half
flipped
that
the script
in yesterday's game. All right, and finally, fourth down. Maybe the lone bright spot for the Buffalo Bills was their run game. Chris Ivory and Marcus Murphy. Obviously, you lose LaShawn McCoy, you think the run game's going to sink. It did not. Ivory did a good job. He shows amazing quickness, I think, with a couple of his runs, including this one where he bounces it outside and outruns the linebackers to the corner. Ivory wound up the game with 16 carries, 81 yards. Marcus Murphy, 4 carries for 53 yards. And I think the offensive line gets some credit here, too. I thought the offensive line, in run blocking anyway, did a really good job, Chris, including John Miller, who has not had a great first half of the season. Miller had his best game of the year yesterday, I thought, and got out in front of a lot of these big runs that the Bills picked up.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that Ivory was the catalyst for the offense yesterday. I mean, he is the main reason why they were able to move the ball effectively, especially in that first half, and get into Indianapolis territory. He was keeping the team on schedule in terms of down and distance. We saw a lot fewer 3rd and 14s, 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 11s. There were a lot fewer in number in this game as opposed to previous weeks. And it's because Ivory, even on run plays that didn't work extraordinarily well, still would get 2 or 3 yards, fall forward, and bring up a 2nd and 7 instead of a 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12. And at the end of the day, he has over 100 yards from scrimmage for this team because he had 25 yards receiving. And Murphy did a good job, as the complimentary back to Ivory.
All right, as we said, maybe the lone bright spot for the Bills in yesterday's game. You're watching the Bills Monday Morning Breakdown. John Murphy, Chris Brown. One of the best parts about this show is the interaction we have with you on social media. It's crowd noise, and we love the crowd noise on this show as we get a sense of what Bills fans are thinking about today. Let's go to some of the crowd noise today, and we will start with a question from Twitter. Ricardo says, I just hope Josh Allen learned something from this. Any chance it'll play on Monday, I think it would be valuable experience. I think that's unlikely, but certainly not out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the severity of Josh Allen's elbow injury, and I don't think we ever will learn that. I think that's going to be kept under wraps for the most part. Coach McDermott's supposed to address the media today at 4 p.m., or is it tomorrow now with the Monday night game? I'll have to check the media schedule. So we'll have to see if he is actually speaking, but that's where we're going to get our update from, and I think all signs.
McDermott speaks today.
He does speak today.
Yes,
okay,
4 o'clock.
I didn't know if it changed because of the Monday night game, but all signs I think are pointing to Derrick Anderson being back, in the lineup this week, because a week-to-week injury kind of at least gives the indication that it's going to take a little bit of time for Allen to come around. It's his throwing elbow. I mean, even if it feels good enough to throw a football, how is the strength in that arm? How is the velocity of the ball coming out of his hand? Those are a lot of hurdles that I think he has to clear, and I don't know if he's going to be able to clear it in 2 weeks' time.
Ricardo asked whether Josh got anything out of the experience yesterday. I'd be interested to hear what he said. He was on the sideline, hearing the play call going in, taking notes of some kind. I'd be interested to hear from him what he maybe got out of that experience yesterday.
I know he was looking forward to it, saying it would be helpful for him to get a different perspective. And I felt it was, after that Houston game, I thought he needed at least a week on the sidelines. I certainly didn't want to get him hurt and that be the reason to go to the sidelines, but I think he might be able to take something from this, just seeing the game from a different perspective, hearing the plays come down and through, and then witnessing them and mentally taking those in instead of physically repping them.
All right, we've got more crowd noise from you, and this one comes from Facebook, and Leor Melamed asks, how can they turn things around the fastest? I wish I had the answer, Leor. I don't know how they would turn things around the fastest. I think they do have to get it turned around. I guess the key lies with the defense, Chris. That defense, playing the way they did up until yesterday, at least the 3 games prior to that, that's the quickest way to turn things around. If they, and what you're talking about is keeping games close with that defense, right? Giving yourself a chance.
And as you mentioned earlier, it's the first time under Sean McDermott they didn't get a sack or a turnover in a game. And when you move away from that formula, I think we see how much this team struggles. They need that phase of the game to be at their best to have a chance in football games. I mean, the defense is the reason they beat the Titans 13-12 because they held that other team down on the scoreboard. They probably should have won at Houston also with the way that defense played. Obviously, they didn't come up with the victory there. But when the defense goes south, as they did yesterday, and the other 2 phases of the game can't pick up the slack, and I don't think too many of us believe they're capable of picking up the slack, sufficiently enough to cover for them, the result is what we saw yesterday. So hopefully they can get that side of the ball, which has performed the best over the course of this season, back up to snuff, or at least what their standard is every week, and then that gives them at least some chance to win a football game.
And a little more crowd noise coming in. This is from Facebook as we look forward to next week. Fabiano asks on Facebook, this week's mission, get the defense ready to take Brady down. Yeah, it's the defense really that has to lead this team, right, Chris? Because there's no quick fix coming for the Buffalo offense. The receiving core is an issue. Obviously, they're playing with Derrick Anderson now or Josh Allen if he's ready next week. It's up to the defense, and they'll be challenged by New England, obviously.
In every phase.
Yeah.
They will be challenged in every phase because I think we know what New England's MO is. Play sound, fundamental football. Play sound situational football. No matter what the situation is, they seem to always be prepared for it. And on top of that, can execute it. Every team in the league is prepared every week for a game based on game plan, film study, and all of that. Where the Patriots separate themselves is they're not only prepared for what is going to happen in the game, they can also execute it to a T as well.
All right, let's get into our 2-minute offense as we take a look at what went on around the NFL yesterday. The weekend started in London. It was the Chargers and the Titans, a 55-yard touchdown pass right here from Phillip Rivers to Mike Williams. Chargers go up 17-6. Tennessee comes back. Marcus Mariota leads them down the field. A 1-yard touchdown pass coming up right here to Luke Stocker. And the Titans are down by 1. They go for 2. Big mistake. Incomplete right here. And the Chargers win at 20-19. The Chargers win 4 of their last 5.
Vikings and Jets, and the Vikings pretty much took the Jets out of this game thanks to Adam Thielen with a touchdown catch there. Got 100 yards again for the 7th straight game. Ties an NFL record. Latavius Murray with a pair of touchdowns. Sam Darnold, 3 interceptions for the Jets as the Vikings win.
Dolphins and Detroit in Miami. Matthew Stafford solid with a couple of touchdowns. That one, both to Michael Roberts. And the Lions go on to win this one 32-21. The Dolphins have lost 3 of their last 4 games.
Pats and Bears. James White with a pair of touchdowns for the Patriots. They go up 38-24 with 8 minutes left in this game, but the Bears climb back into it. They're down just a touchdown. It's Hail Mary time for Mitchell Trubisky. Heaves this thing about 63 yards into the wind. White catches the ball, but the Patriots hold him out of the end zone, preventing the possibility for a tie or even a win with a 2-point conversion. Patriots win 38-31.
Saints in Baltimore. Drew Brees brings them back from a 10-point deficit, and it gets close. Joe Flacco to John Brown here with a touchdown pass. That makes it a 1-point deficit. An extra point, Justin Tucker should be automatic. It is not his first ever career extra point miss. Look at his face. He can't believe it. And the Saints win this one 24-23.
Chiefs and Bengals on Sunday Night Football. More of Pat Mahomes. He has taken the league by storm this year. 3 touchdown passes. This one to Kareem Hunt. He also had one to his tight end, Demetrius Harris, as he finds him in the back of the end zone. And then the last one to Tyreek Hill on an improvisational type play. Chiefs win this game going away 45-10. as they are a point-scoring juggernaut.
All right, I got a hot take for you, Chris, that goes back,
to
the London game. That's a big mistake by Mike Vrabel. Some are going to pat him on the back today and say, oh, well, you went for it. Good for you. Your team's tough. You play to win, and that's why you go for it. No, big mistake. You play to win. That's right. And if you can get into overtime, you play overtime and try to win in overtime. When you make that, when you go for 2 and you don't make it, you lose. And now you're playing to lose. Big mistake. I know that won't be a popular team.
3 weeks ago, he did the same thing and they won the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and he said after that game 3 weeks ago, I think it was the week before the Bills played the Titans. Or no, that was the overtime win over the Eagles. But prior to that, the week prior, they went for it for 2 and won at the end of the game. And he said, my team plays to win, so I owe it to them to play to win also. So his argument is, I go for 2 to win the game right there. You're in favor, obviously, of extending the game.
Now he owes it to them to make the right call the next time. All right, let's take a look ahead for the Bills this week, the long week with Monday Night Football coming up against the Patriots. Obviously, the first question will be the health of LaShawn McCoy in concussion protocol. We have no idea what that's going to look like.
Yeah, and there's 5 stages of the concussion protocol process, and the hope here is that he can get back on the practice field at some point this week. There is a benefit of getting an extra day with it being a Monday night game, so you would hope that benefits McCoy. But I think you're hoping that he can start getting into cardiovascular exercise by midweek. That's one of the first steps when he's cleared for that. And then if no symptoms return, he can take the next step and the step after that. And then there is a step, which is step 4, where you can get on the practice field, but you're still not out of the protocol yet. And then the final step is step 5, full medical clearance. You got to hope that they can get there, by the end of the week, Saturday, Sunday, so he's cleared for full football activity.
McCoy, question number 1 for the Bills this week. Question number 1A is who's playing quarterback. We think it is likely to be Derrick Anderson, but we'll keep an eye on that during the course of the week, whether Josh Allen is ready to get any snaps in. As Chris mentioned, it is his throwing arm, so it's likely to be Derrick Anderson. We may know as soon as today.
Yeah, Coach McDermott's supposed to address the media late this afternoon, so we'll see if there's any update there and if he's even a consideration for this week's game.
That's question 1 and 1A, and question 2, I think, is the defense. Can the defense get back to where they were against maybe the biggest challenge they faced all year in Tom Brady and the Patriots?
Right, and you know that the Patriots are going to go to school on what Frank Reich used effectively against them in the run game, and James White has had a fantastic year for the Patriots, not only running the football, but also making those receptions out of the backfield on swing passes and things like that. So Sony Michel is probably not going to play for the Patriots, so that's a benefit. He got carted off the field yesterday with what looked to be a pretty bad injury. So that's one weapon out of the arsenal for them. We don't know what the situation is with Gronk, who didn't play last week due to a back injury. They think it's a short-term thing, but we'll have to see. Backs can be tricky, and he's in charge of blocking as well as receiving. That's a lot of torque on your back when you're doing that. So the Patriots could be down a few key weapons. Whether it's enough to make the difference, I don't know. But, yeah, the defense has to absolutely get back on track. As the defense goes, the Bills go.
So the Bills host the Patriots next Monday night, 8:15 here at New Era Field. And our next show is?
It will be next Monday. But
it'll be a pregame show.
Yeah, it'll be a pregame show. That's
Monday
right.
Breakdown. We thank you for tuning in today, whether it was on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We'll be back with you next Monday at 10 a.m. Chris joins us on One Bills Live today at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on MSG and on our flagship radio station, WGR Sports Radio 550. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next Monday for Monday Morning Breakdown.